Close your eyes and listen. The bell rings, sharp and final, and a classroom of polished wooden desks falls instantly silent. Chalk dust hangs in the air, coats neatly folded, shoes aligned beneath chairs. In the 1950s, this moment set the tone for the entire day. Expectations were clear, rules were firm, and nobody needed them explaining twice. A teacher enters and authority arrives with them. You sit straighter without thinking, hands flat on the desk, eyes forward. There is no chatter, no negotiation, just the quiet understanding that behavior matters. Consequences are swift, predictable, and accepted as part of growing up. To modern parents, this world can feel almost unreal. Today's classrooms hum with conversation and flexibility, but back then, order came first. Most people today have no idea this was once completely normal, and stepping back inside this room shows how different school life truly was back then. To understand why classrooms felt so strict, we have to step outside the school gates and into post-war Britain itself. The 1950s were years of rebuilding, not just bricks and streets, but habits, values, and expectations. Order mattered. Routine mattered. After years of uncertainty, people clung to structure because it promised stability. Schools reflected that world perfectly. Children arrived each morning polished and punctual. Shoes gleaming against wooden floors, coats buttoned, hair neatly set. Morning assemblies set the rhythm of the day, voices joining together, reminders of duty and effort echoing through the hall. It wasn't meant to be warm or cozy. It was meant to prepare you. For many families, school wasn't about comfort or self-expression. It was about shaping character. Learning to listen, to wait your turn, to accept correction without question were seen as essential tools for adult life. Firmness was not viewed as harshness, but as guidance. Parents trusted schools to do this work. Teachers carried authority borrowed from society itself, rarely questioned and widely respected. In a world still shaped by shortages and shared effort, discipline felt like a sensible investment in the future. Today, we often associate care with encouragement and reassurance. Back then, care came wrapped in structure and expectation. A strict classroom was considered a fair one because the rules applied to everyone. Back then, firmness meant fairness. Today, it means something very different. And that shift tells us a great deal about how Britain itself has changed over the decades since. Every classroom had its unspoken rules, and by the time you were 7, you knew them by heart. You stood by your desk when told, hands behind your back, eyes fixed ahead, waiting, writing lines-filled exercise books with neat, repetitive sentences, each one a reminder to slow down, concentrate, and do better next time. Missing break time wasn't unusual either, watching others play while the clock ticked steadily on the wall. These moments weren't dramatic. They were routine. Chalk squeaked across the blackboard, pages rustled, and then came the hush after a name was called. The room seemed to hold its breath. Children didn't ask why. They already knew the answer. The rules were clear long before the lesson began. What mattered most was predictability. Consequences followed actions in a way that felt orderly, almost reassuring. You knew where you stood, quite literally, and that certainty shaped behavior as much as any lesson in arithmetic or handwriting. It also shaped memory. Decades later, many people can still recall exactly how the classroom smelled, how the clock sounded, how silence felt heavy in their chest. Today, much of this has faded. Conversations replace commands, and explanations come before consequences. This routine has almost vanished from British schools, leaving behind only fragments in memory. Yet those fragments tell us something important about how children once learned, not just lessons, but boundaries. Before we step further into how those rules affected everyone in the room, that shared rhythm quietly shaped classrooms long before change softened the edges of everyday school life then. This single rule-shaped playground friendships more than any lesson ever did. In many 1950s classrooms, responsibility was shared, whether you liked it or not. If one child whispered, everyone felt the pause that followed. If someone forgot a book, the whole class might lose a small privilege or wait a little longer before going home. Silence could be imposed on everyone, not just the culprit. Break time might feel shorter, or at the end of the day, arrive later than expected. These moments taught children to watch one another, to nudge a sleeve, to raise an eyebrow, to keep the peace together. It wasn't just about avoiding trouble, it was about belonging. This kind of collective discipline bonded classmates in quiet ways. Alliances formed, loyalties shifted, and playground friendships were shaped by who could be trusted to follow the rules. For some, it built cooperation and care. For others, it created tension that lingered long after the bell. Today, classrooms focus far more on individual needs and personal support. Consequences are discussed privately, not shared publicly. Back then, the class moved as one, learning that actions echoed beyond the individual. That sense of community could feel heavy, but it also taught children that they were part of something larger. A lesson that still lingers in memory as we consider how those shared experiences shaped childhood itself. Those memories quietly lead us forward, toward understanding what came next in school life. Then, looking back, it wasn't just the rules people remember, but how they felt living under them. There were nerves on certain mornings, that tight feeling as you crossed the playground, wondering if today you'd be noticed for the wrong reason. Embarrassment could sting, especially when attention turned your way, yet most children learned quickly to steady themselves and carry on. The walk home after a difficult day often felt longer. Some told their parents everything, replaying it at the kitchen table. Others said nothing at all, deciding it was easier to keep it to themselves. Either way, those moments quietly shaped confidence, teaching children how to face discomfort without making a fuss. For many, there was also pride. Pride in enduring, in getting through the week, the term, the year. Manners, patience, and resilience were absorbed almost without realizing it. These lessons didn't arrive wrapped in praise, but they stayed. Today, we speak more openly about feelings, and support looks very different. Yet some memories still feel close, even after all these years. They surface unexpectedly, reminding us that school was never just about lessons, but about learning who you were becoming before the final bell rang in those days. Could it ever happen again? Today's classrooms feel like another world, filled with conversation, explanation, and choice. Children are encouraged to speak up, to understand why rules exist, not simply follow them. Much has been gained, confidence, openness, and care shaped around the individual. Yet something quieter has faded too. The shared rhythms, the clear boundaries, the feeling of moving forward together. This isn't about saying one time was better than another. It's about noticing the change, different times, different rules, same children, just growing up in different worlds. And perhaps that's why these memories still invite us to talk.